Francois Nortje, you are rapidly becoming our go-to guy when it comes to anything to do with the rail network in South Africa. Not surprisingly, you've got a big vested interest here in it. You're the developer of Port of Gauteng.
That's correct, and we can do a magnificent rail park. And so if rail can work, we can also do much better than what we'll do if rail doesn't work. So we would hope rail can be what it should be in South Africa.
Now, I've seen Port of Gauteng on the way to Durban. It's just outside of the Vosloorus area, I guess you could call it. Why is it positioned there? What's the relevance of it?
It's the entry point, exit point of Gauteng. So if you go out, it's the funnel where all the roads get together, and then it goes on to the N3. And if you come in, it's what we call the champagne position. The N3 is the stem, and then the cup is where all the people live up to Lubumbashi. And this is just before it splits, because there's not much between Durban and Joburg. It's the hose pipe between the tank and the garden. And we're just there where the garden starts.
And just down the road from you is Tambo Springs. Now, you've been tackling them.
I haven't been tackling Tambo Springs. I've been tackling the Gauteng Department of Roads, Gautrans, for activities that they've done there, which we don't think complied with law. And we got an interdict stopping them from building the off-ramp to Tambo Springs.
It's a heck of a job. How long did that court action take?
It took 2 years and 6 months since we wrote them the first letter. We wrote to them the 1st of August in 2019. We got the interdict on the 4th of February 2022. Cost 2 million rand, and 30 months later.
And you did that because?
I did that because they messed up the EIA. A lot of things were left out. They never dealt with the petrol pipe. The environmental consultants didn't even know the petrol pipe existed. There's a wetland next to the N3 there. It got declared a synthetic wetland when it's not a synthetic wetland. The connection road in Tambo Springs was in the middle of a sensitive floodplain. They stated in their own EIA, when they amended the EIA, because 7 out of the 8 properties was left out of the EIA. So how that happened, I don't know.
So why would they be so stupid as to do that? It sounds like a really dumb approach. Where you got all these things that were wrong with it, which the courts have now agreed with you on.
It's a good question. We look at it, and as I said, there's 15 properties which you need to get an EIA on. 8 of them was originally left out. 7 was put in. They left the 15th one out. There's a wastewater treatment plant at that total filling station. The new road was going to build right over it. That wasn't disclosed to Total. It wasn't disclosed to the tenant of the petrol filling stations. They didn't know about the petrol pipe. They know.
How big was this development going to be?
It's 1,500 hectares, the whole total Tambo Springs, if you take all 3 landowners together. It's a massive thing. It's a 50 billion rand development that they planned.
And they didn't do the basics right. Why? Why? Is it because they thought they could find another way to get the approvals through?
I wish I knew. Or arrogance. We government, we big. Just do it. We don't need to tick the boxes. It's for the general public, private developers that must tick the boxes. Nobody caring. Not the EIA was done by Gautrans. Maybe those officials isn't as caring as a private developer, but it was a whole spectrum of jokes. Not giving proper notice, not having proper public participation, not knowing who the owners are. When they amended, they had to amend it again. They left properties out.
I admire what you did, because we have these rules in South Africa, these laws, but not too often are they applied. And in this case, you said, no, you got a commercial interest in this, so that's fine. We know you got a vested interest, but at least you applied the law. But I actually wanted to find out from you about the wonderful statements that we're hearing from our president in the State of the Nation address. We've got this third-party rail network that's starting. In other words, third parties can get onto South Africa's rail network. They can start using it. That we desperately need, especially right now when the commodity boom is on, to try and get better efficiencies going through. You've been looking at this in a lot of detail, and I'd like to know from you whether our President Ramaphosa is going to be able to deliver on these promises.
I don't think it's up to them. It's still a big question how much money you're going to have to invest, and then is it really going to work? You know, you put money in building a terminal, you buying the trains, and then Transnet falls off the wagon, and you're still running it on Transnet's railway lines. The guys that's looking at it are nervous. It's big decisions to be made. It's a lot of money to be invested, and they've seen this, and they speak to us about it. And Durban Harbour is also going to have some private sort of form of privatization or joint venture, stuff like that. So the big boys are looking at it. But
what are they nervous about?
Is it really going to work? You know, is it, we spend all this money, because it's never been, what is the regulator going to be like? You know, what if we got a dispute? It hasn't been done. It hasn't been tested. You know, it's like, it's new territory. And then, like anything else, new. Especially, you know, is there going to be a clawback? Is the government going to want too much? Is the government going to have an open hand and allow more freedom? Let the private enterprise run it totally from A to B? I think they'd be much happier if that line gets privatized and some private guys buy it, and they're out of government hands, and private guys can run Durban Harbour. But they're nervous about the sort of 50-50 approach. And is it going to become 70-30 or 30-70? And, you know, it's never been done. So they're cautious in it, but at least the blood is flowing there. There's inquiries there in Port of Gauteng. On Friday, we had a plane flying up and down along the railway line and on the provincial road and on the farms around. So somebody are looking and somebody is surveying and seeing, and there's agents that are now interested. Before, it was quite quiet under COVID. But yeah, you can see a page has been turned and there's some blood flowing. So it's a relief.
So the idea here is, if you get the railway lines working again, then from your perspective, that is, you're perfectly positioned for that to be a hub.
Yeah, a terminal. We can put a very efficient terminal there where you can load off stuff very quickly and very cheaply. So we think we will become the #1 container hub in Southern Africa if it works. Then you don't need to put everything on road. The minerals and whatever can come to that area, be stuffed in the container, go down with the container. The container can be loaded off there. We got 2.2 kilometers of flat land, straight. Because you got such a blank canvas, you can design something that works very productive. And two of the other 3 boundaries are provincial roads. And the national road is just down the road. And the petrol pipe is there, the data pipe is there, the gas pipe from Secunda to Alberton is just up the road. So there's a lot of possibilities.
How many trains are actually running along that
Very
rail
little
line
at the moment.
What's
About,
very little?
2 a day in one direction and 2 a day in the other direction.
And what were they at the peak?
Those are container trains, because there's no more jet fuel train. There used to come a jet fuel train every day. It's obviously not demanded ORT for. And then there used to be 2 car trains in each direction. The car trains still come. That's the video I took for you in Howick, in Nottingham Road.
Mm.
But it now detours to Central Rand and then hook up with a diesel locomotive. Because past us, somewhere between Germiston and Kaalfontein, the wires have been stolen. So now the car train's shortest route is past us. It's now going quite a loop to the Far East Rand to get to Kaalfontein, because the wires haven't been replaced since COVID.
I remember when Portia Derby, the CEO, was doing a presentation, I think, to the mining in Durban. She said that there was about 5 kilometers of cables that were being stolen a day at that point. And is this what you're talking about? That the cables have gone, and it must be very difficult to replace them, but secondly, what does it do to the ability for these third-party people who are coming onto the railways to use efficient trains? I
don't know why they couldn't fix that link, because next to us, they also steal the cables. Once they stole it twice in 1 week, just as they replace it, they stole it. They got the eyes now. There's eyes on the line. So if the line gets stolen or cut, then the train driver at least can see there's like cat eyes at night. And it still gets stolen there by us, but then it gets fixed the same day or the same night and the trains go again. Why the car trains don't come part of Port of Gauteng to Kaalfontein, which is the shortest route, I don't know. After the lockdown, when I saw the cars didn't come anymore, I one day drove to Kaalfontein. And they told me now it's taking the detour and a slip back. And it seems it's still going that route. So before lockdown, we used to get 6 trains, in this time of the year, 6 container trains that went up to 10 container trains in October in each direction. Now it's 2, so it's a third of what it used to be. And the N3 is fuller, so it's not that we import or export less, it's just Transnet has lost 2/3 of the market share of containers before COVID, between start of COVID and now. In 2 years, they've lost 2/3 of so they must also, they used to make a loss on that line in any case, because they had to subsidize it from 2014 onwards, when they angered the truck guys or scared the truck guys, and the truck guys started competing. Now it must be a financial disaster for them.
For the taxpayer, really.
Yeah,
because the taxpayer's got to put it in there.
Yeah, because it made a loss, and now it's running at a third of its capacity. The car train must now go on a loop to go about it. There's every now and then a steel train from Newcastle that used to come to Mitchell Steel's yard there near OR Tambo Airport. And then there was the and so on, whatever, and then there used to be a jet fuel train every morning coming. So at the moment, it's just the 2 container trains a day in each direction on average.
So when the third parties start using the rail, presumably they would need the electricity as well, or they're going to be running it on diesel, because they aren't, from what you're saying, the cables, the electric cables.
No, but they fix it, and when they say, you know what a cost it is.
But that must be horrific.
It's horrific. That's why it's what I said to you. I don't think Porsche, Derby and the staff has got the ability to stand up against organised crime. And I think if it's too big an organisation. Maybe the small oak also can't. If I say small oak, the smaller guy. Transnet has got 55,000 employees. The Natcor line might employ 1,000 people if you privatise that. And if you've got a company with 1,000 employees and it belongs to, say, a Bidvest of this world, or an Imperial or somebody like that, without, not that they are looking, but I mean a private enterprise. You had a Brian Joffe type guy, Mark Lamberti type guy on top of it. I'm sure they could have done something about the security and be more focused and stuff like that. Because we need it. Durban can't be Durban one day and bring all those things into Joburg just by road. Bayhead Road is clocked, and it needs to come out by rail. So if we're not going to bring it out by rail, where are we going to bring this stuff from? Because you can't take it to Quebec or to Cape Town.
What you've said, Francois, is certainly, it makes a lot of sense, and surely everybody knows it, especially the people at Transnet. Haven't they put something on the table, and the government as well put something on the table that can work or will work, or are you dubious that this third party's use of the rail is actually
we're not going to be the operator. So the guys we are talking to, they'll buy the land, the rail park from us, because I don't think they would want us to be the operator or the landlord. So they are talking to the Transnet and the authorities. We're not first-hand involved with that, but the feedback that we're getting is, we need to see. There's lots of risk before we commit.
You also pointed out to me, as you said earlier, that train at Nottingham Road. What were you doing there? Having a look at it, and a little video that you filmed.
I stop over at Nottingham every now and then. I don't drive just all the way to Belito when I go down there and whatever. And yesterday morning or Tuesday morning after breakfast, I just had a feeling, just go and drive through the industrial part of Nottingham Road towards Moy River. And, Nottingham Road, the railway line goes through the town. If you come from the one side to where the Spa and whatever's, the railway line sits there, and there the train was stuck. It just stood still there. And I went to the Spa and bought stuff, and I saw it was still stuck. And then I drove along. I couldn't get to the locomotives, close to the locomotives, and I saw they were electric locomotives, and there wasn't load shedding in Nottingham Road. And it was just stuck there. And I took that video, drove around, did some things, had some coffee, and an hour later it was still just standing there. I read from newspaper articles that it takes them now 36 hours to bring a train from Durban to Joburg, where it used to be 18 hours. And it's that kind of stuff. And to me, it's now time for Porsche, Derby and Transnet to break up Transnet for the sake of the South African economy. It's too difficult for an SOE and people that don't have skin in the game to run it. It needs to be run by a consortium of transport guys or mineral exporters or importers or logistics companies that it's not working. And it's getting worse and worse, even though all the good announcement, the talk is this way and the action is that way.
So public-private partnerships, in your opinion, are not going to deliver what is required?
I think just, it's a difficult thing to run. Now, if you've got a public-private partnership, I said, the guys are nervous. Who's going to call the shots? And what if we got a dispute? There's an elderly gentleman that's an engineer that specializes on this thing. And he advised to everybody else, take full control,
Or don't get involved.
Don't get involved. You're going to have trouble with Transnet in 5 years' time. They're going to change their mind. They're going to change their policy. The government changed their policy and you sit in the middle. Get full control or don't get involved.
What about the fuel line? I know this is something that's also very close to your heart. You just explain to us, there's what the fuel that comes from Durban to Gauteng.
It goes to Jameson Park there by Heidelberg, and then it goes into various directions to L Road and to Langlaagte and to Waterloo, as far as I know.
And it's a big pipe, in other words, with fuel that comes through it.
Fuel
diesel,
comes
petrol.
through it and whatever. And it comes through the bottom of my land on the highway park. It follows the N3 alignment.
Is it underground?
It's underground. And one place on my land, there's like a control room, whenever where there's a leak, they come with a truck and they move these concrete slabs and they close the valve. So that if there's a breakage in the pipe further down, it's like a stop valve.
Now,
So that's why I'm aware of it. And there's a servitude right on the boundary of my land to the N3. But when I drove up from Nottingham Road one day in August 2020, just before the Tugela Engine Plaza, I just saw this fountain of liquid coming out the ground, 9 o'clock in the morning. And I got such a fright and said, this must be the petrol pipe gushing out stuff. This petrol pipe is supposed to shut down when there's a leak. This is 9 o'clock in the morning. Surely they break into this thing at night. And this thing...
who breaks into it?
Breaks into it. I don't know who breaks into it.
But they're crooks, in other words. They're stealing petrol.
Yeah, stealing petrol.
From the line. But
from the line. I don't know how. And the reason why I came back, one of the properties next to the Port of Gauteng, there was a raid the night before. And people was arrested for stealing fuel. There was 4 tankers parked with crude oil. That one. So I went to my security personnel phoned me and said there's a raid. And I thought, let me get back there and whatever. And when they raided it, one of these tankers fell over. So these guys stole the crude oil somewhere, and it was in 34,000 litre tankers, and they parked it on one of the properties next to Port of Gauteng. And as the forces that be, it was quite an operation with helicopters and whatever, the one fell over and it leaked. When I got there, there was Dritz was the company that did the spillage control. They were on site, 25 skips where they took the contaminated soil and stuff like that. And when I drove back, where that fuel spewed out, there was the same type of plastic orange fence around, and it said Dritz. So I knew this was a fuel spillage. A few months later, when I came back, on the right-hand side, if you drive towards Joburg, just about 20 km before the Bergwil off-ramp, there was a major spillage. Massive area cordoned off with this orange sort of tape, and this had Spiltec on it, I think, not Dritz. That site is still standing there, Alec.
The same as it was.
Site. They've taken the soil, put it in heaps, and then they put plastic over it. Now the sun has burned the plastic to pieces. The rain has come inside the plastic. raining the petrol or whatever, the diesel. It seems like it was diesel there because the soil is black, and spilling it along the N3. And I've sent you the video. And if you stand there along the N3, you can now see as it rained, this path of deafness, where there's nothing, where it's just the petrol has killed everything, or the diesel has killed everything. Along the N3 is just continuing. It's gone into the stormwater drain underneath the N3. It's killing the soil, the plants and whatever on the other side of the N3. This happened on 26th of October 2020. The site is abandoned. There was no security that stopped me filming. There was like a portable toilet. There was like a security out. If there was a security guard, he never came out. The site is abandoned. It's not rehabilitated. The one where I saw the fuel coming out in August 2020, that's not rehabilitated yet. The soil is still there. I drove to Walkerville the other day. I go down from South Gate towards the Lido Hotel in that direction. On the left hand of the road, there's the same situation. That's where the pipe comes from Jameson Park to Langlaagte. Heaps of sand in plastic that's burned to pieces. So Transnet doesn't seem to rehabilitate these sites. They just leave it. It's shocking, because are they now complying with the environmental conditions? What is the environmental? How do a company like Transnet forget about a site like that? How does it go off the radar that there's no more security, no more personnel, that the notice that says stay out of the site is off? If you go on Google Earth, I'll send you the pin, you see this black area. You see the contamination, hundreds of meters by hundreds of meters, just left there. And as it rains now, there's a river about half a kilometer from there. It's going to hit that river sooner or later. It just seems that there's no, I don't know, what do you call it?
Because Transnet's too big? Is this why?
I just think it's too big and nobody cares. And then the next problem and the next problem. And then they forget about this thing, and they're so overloaded that nobody goes back and says, was this thing cleared? Was it done? But, they're going to have a problem, because there's conditions in the EIA. NEMA makes provision for private prosecution. So if the Green Scorpions not prosecute them, private guys might step in. And who is the responsible person at Transnet that's actually going to be prosecuted, that's going to be in the box with the company? Is it the head of the pipe division, or is it the head of Transnet? Is it Porsche? But it seems nobody cares. I, with my own eyes, have seen 4 of these sites. That can't be the only 4 in the country. And that big one on the N3, as you drive from Escort towards Ladysmith on the right-hand side, about 20 km before the Bergville off-ramp, is a shocker. It is absolute, it's dead. It's black, dead. There's nothing. And there's tons and tons and tons of soil being stored there, plastic disintegrating.
So it sounds like if this was, say, in a river, or if it was in a area that was a built-up area, there would be immediate attention on it.
Yes.
In this case, you've observed it with your eye. Clearly, Transnet is falling down in numerous ways on this. Is your suggestion on how this could be addressed and be avoided in future is to break up Transnet into smaller pieces, or
manageable
privatize?
pieces, and with people with skin in the game. I've got nothing against an official, somebody that works for the government, but somebody that's got shares in that business, that's put 20 million, or there's a big boy that's put 200 million rand in this company, and this happened. His share price is going to go from 200 million to 100 million. That will go raving mad, screaming, shouting, and not just explaining. The problem with officials, they explain what happens, but nobody's share price drops from 100 million to 50 million and feel it and are raving mad and forcing the issue. There's a reason why certain capitalism work. Capitalism can be bad, but there's a boss in there, an owner that's invested money in there, and his share value drops from 100 million to 50 million because of this, and they have to pay this fine. No explanation is going to be good enough for him. He's going to make sure it works. And that's what I think we need. Somebody that's got skin in the game, investors that put 500 million in this company and 500 million in that company, and that will go raving mad if things like this happen.